and I always stocked the great one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not talk on camera about that shit.
Because you know what happens. Like last time.
Make sure you crop that out.
No. We want to make it realistic. The usual.
Why do you
look at you and start laughing.
Why do you look like a German professor with your roll neck and your glasses? You haven't worn glasses for you can keep this bit in. You haven't worn glasses for 2 weeks, and now he's on camera. He's got his glasses on.
Yeah, I look better with glasses, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm stupid. So, introduction, our favorite bit. Hello, it's Peter from PS Sound and
Lee from Platinum in Car.
2 weeks, 29 days. Well, we had the weekend off.
You're confusing people by 2 weeks, 29 days though. Because 2 weeks ain't 29 days.
So we had 10 days and you did 29 days worth of work.
We did
together.
a lot of hours each day. A day and a half each day, I think
About
it was.
14 and a half each, really.
Yeah.
And here we are, the back end of this secret project. It looks a little bit better than when we started, and people are still trying to figure out what it is, and the owner is standing right there and he's not going to say anything. Never.
Jeremy Clarkson is tall though, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah.
And Elton John would start singing, right?
It's not Elton John.
Someone rode in Elton John's car, so. Well, I'm sure he has more cars. We could build one for him, another one. Yeah. Well, this is for a pop star, so you know, we couldn't share what car it is, so people can't find it, things like that.
It's all in the eyes, mate. It's all in the eyes, apparently.
All in the eyes.
This is going to confuse the hell out of people.
Why?
Let's talk about the car.
Let's talk about the car. So you could see in the previous what the plan was with the trunk. We have two 15s in trunk IB. And what do they sound like?
Yeah.
What do they sound like?
You can't put the
hear
thumbs
that.
up. Clarkson doesn't want his voice on.
No.
They sound pretty amazing. I was a bit worried about the size of the boot, not trunk. I was the boot. I was a bit worried about the size, but the response is really, really, really good, and they're tight and they're controlled.
It's bringing exactly the curve that you want. You want that rise, at least 3 dB rise on the 200 hertz, and where it starts to come alive on the 70, 80. It's crossed at 50 right now with 24 dB, but at the end. But it's just creeping up to the.
Some people say you get this weird dip, but there's at a certain frequency when you do free air or IB subs in a car. There's none of that. These play from about 80 hertz
linear all the way
with a rising response all the way to 25.
It peaks at 28. 25 is fine, and then it starts to drop off because the size of the trunk is slightly small for these particular drivers. They were designed for true IB more than anything, but realistically, not many people listen to music with anything lower than 20.
They still play
25.
20 hertz.
Yeah.
Don't make it sound like they don't. They still play 20 hertz, plenty loud enough.
Unfortunately, I didn't save the raw measurements when I measured the car first. And Lee was still working in the trunk and the boot.
Thank you.
He was still working on it and it was open, and I measured it like that first, and it definitely played below 25 all the way to 15 linear without any problem. Once you shut the trunk boot, once you shut it, then yeah, it starts to roll off on the 25. But what it does when it comes to musicality and dynamics, it's a whole different game compared to sealed boxes or ported boxes or whatever you want. And the output is more than plenty for a decent front end. And is the front end loud enough?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Wow.
You can overpower the front end with them quite easily, and for most SQ people, then there would be too much bass. However, the system is really fun, and
well, you can adjust the bass, and we can have different
Yeah.
presets.
But the subs are really snappy and punchy and tight and controlled. A lot of people think that IB or free air is not like that, but this certainly is. And the funny thing was, when I was working on the boot and the front doors were open and the boot was open and we were playing the system, there was so much bass there.
Still.
So they're basically playing in dipole and still so much bass, clean bass running from it. It's
So that's about the sub. The shelf was only soundproofed, top and bottom, and then the parcel shelf went back with factory soundproofing and insulation, and it's fine. There's not much rattle. Once you go absolutely crazy and you push the subs to the limit, you can hear a bit of a rattle from the back if everything else at the front is turned off, but in reality you never have that. By then the mid-range and the high frequency range is so loud that you hear nothing. So it works well. That's the sub. If you want great sub and you have a saloon, go IB. That's it. IB Lee, IB Lee, IB Lee.
yeah.
Mid bass. Doors worked very well.
Say that again. Say it again.
The doors worked. The doors worked. It's rare that we get so good response from doors. It's definitely down to the fact that it's a premium car put together better, 100%.
But the doors are not really long and thin. They're quite deep, and they're not quite that as long as some cars. So a lot of cars, they're really thin but really long, which doesn't help. But these are a little bit fatter and a little bit shorter. So that helps.
You also have a wider surface area of the door panel, and that can create more vibration. And this is really rigid. The crash bar in the door is properly mounted together with the skin of the door. Yes, I soundproofed it. Fair amount of soundproofing went into the door, outer skin, inner skin, door card heads, isolation on it as well. So there's no hard surface touching anything. And you can feel the energy on the door once you put your arm on the armrest.
Still probably the best doors I've heard in a long
yeah,
time.
It's pretty good.
For an 8-inch.
It's pretty good, and you don't have the usual problems because of the room character of the car, like you would have in most cars. You have a big dip on driver's side at around 80 or anything between 120, 160. You can have null points that you can't do anything with, and your ears would be drawn to that problem straight away. You could detect that something is just not right on that side. In this car, the problems were not as big, and we got great results. Up to 300 hertz, they were pretty clean, and down to 40. 50, they are across that 50 right now. They definitely give great punch, but they are 8.5-inch drivers. So we have corner area to keep up with the 15s as well. So they tie together really well. They blend well. And then we've got the dash, where we had 19 mil tweeters in the dash that we converted to 100 mil mids.
Luckily, they've got this square little bracket that you can kind of pop out. So the tweeter's on like a little square bracket. You can pop it out. You could actually put a bigger tweeter in there if you wanted to.
Some people will know now what car it is. That's fine. It's fine.
Oblong bracket.
To be fair, only those people watch
only
these
those
videos.
people that have.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you will see. You will see a few
fact,
pictures to give away what it is. But
the fact that there's a 3.5-inch mid in that location, yeah, it's been raised up a little bit, but not a huge amount, and
still blends in pretty well.
And those magnets are quite big in that driver as well. So
it was tricky to get it in, especially the terminals on the drivers are on the outside of the magnet. So I had to play with the orientation, and actually you will see that on passenger side, the way the ring clips in, because the rings are held in place by magnet, and you just couldn't line the driver up so the Accuton logo faces forward like on driver's side.
Not without cutting some of the dash out.
Then we should have cut stuff underneath the grille. But they work beautifully. There wasn't anything drastic between. Well, we had solid response way down to 150 up to nearly 10k. We don't need it in such a wideband range, but there wasn't anything problematic. People worry about comfier terrain. in dash locations.
There wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot in that.
That was one problematic area at 1.7K, but it's not like, you know, you have a 10, 15 dB dip. It was manageable and it works fine, but the location gives so much more. You have better distance to the stage. It doesn't feel like
it's way more technical than A pillars. A pillars cause a lot of problems, and the dash reflecting off the dash. Sorry,
windscreen.
Pointing up at the windscreen, reflecting off the windscreen gives you one big reflection to work with, and if you get the angle right, you can minimise the comb filtering.
Well, the distance matters more than anything.
And you get the distance to soundstage.
We have the mids very close to the windscreen, and now people could complain about, oh yeah, but you didn't mount the mids in a very rigid way. Yes, they are not. We built onto the grills, and the grills clip back to the factory.
But they're clipped in about
points.
5 locations and
Six,
six, and they clip in two angles. So they clip back towards the windscreen and then down. If the whole thing just clipped down, it wouldn't be as rigid as it clipping forward towards the windscreen and then down. So there's two different angles there.
But even the clips have plastic isolators, so nothing rattles really.
Yep. And they're metal spring clips as well, so they're really strong. So and
but what we built for the mids is rigid as hell.
And there's no damage to the actual dash itself. So
you just need a spare pair of grills in 3 years' time.
It can go back to factory with some new grills, and away you go.
Easy. Pillow was the trickiest thing, to be fair. I was scratching my head because we have airbag all the way down. Then vents, side vents, I wanted to lose them, but
those
someone
side
didn't
vents,
allow me to do that.
Those side vents are quite big. Usually on some cars the side vents are quite small, but these are, you know, they're kind of.
I think it's also due to the fact that the A pillars have a really shallow angle, so then you don't have much space to work with. When you are in a truck, the angle is pretty,
the face of it as you sit in the car, you've got the face of it, and then it disappears. So to put the tweeter on the inside would make it very difficult, and would actually come into the windscreen quite a lot and look horrible. So putting them on the face of the A pillar is not only good for sound, is way better in that location and looks way better. However, you've got this air vent at the bottom, which means they had to be quite high, and we would have liked to have got them further down, which means they're closer to the mids and further away from you.
Because now on passenger side you have more than a foot distance between the mid and tweeter, but it's not that noticeable, to be fair. Once it was time aligned, it's pretty good.
No, I was quite surprised how well they disappeared.
It's not built for the ultimate competition standards when everything comes from a single point, and we would have possibly widebands in those locations. Putting 2-inch good widebands into those grills, you could actually keep it OEM under the factory.
If you wanted a simple install, you could do.
That's it. I just told Sully, I don't have a single OEM build in my team.
No one wants OEM. Now. No one wants OEM. They want.
There's not
if
much
they're going to pay, if they're going to pay for something, they want to go above and beyond to a certain degree. Especially in competition, they want to go. They want the best they can get, and OEM that does have limitations to a certain degree. But
we've got to admit the amount of modification we've done up front. The car is definitely doing things that some people have completely customized dash and everything, crazily built, kick builds, whatnot. What we always say,
Another set of A pillars and dash grills will get this car back to factory without any damage done to the rest of the car, and the sound that it's producing with that said is really, really very, very good, considering there's no dash cutting at all, and there's door mounted mid bases. It sounds quite special.
Just because it worked in this car, I'm not gonna say that I want to build doors.
Oh no! If it had massive kicks and you were to take it to another level and put kicks in, it would go to another level. But for what it is,
the biggest problem is that I don't think we will actually be able to do kick builds in new cars anymore. The amount of fuse boards and stuff you have in the kicks in this one, both sides fully packed.
Yeah.
No chance. You are not going to move 100 cables and then screw up the car.
There's always going to be some cars out there that you can do it in.
Yeah, people will buy something from the 90s.
No. The new Mercs, I'm pretty sure you can get them in the kicks as well as the bulkhead which is great. But so it is going to get more and more difficult as more electronics get involved in cars.
We just highlight electronics everywhere.
So
Overall,
so yeah,
overall, it's all right.
overall it's very, very good.
It's
It's
all right.
it's a good sound. It's definitely a good sound.
And the speakers, the mids and the tweeters are brand new. We are possibly 10 hours running on them. So we will see the car back possibly in 2 months' time when everyone has a day. We will make it happen. We will see how much they change, especially the tweeters. They will need running in for sure.
I don't know how much ceramic drivers need. We discussed this earlier. I don't know how long they take.
It's never the cone. It's always
It's
the
the soft parts. Yeah, I know it's the soft parts, but how it changes tonally different to a paper cone, I don't know,
Yes.
because you are running in the soft parts. But like I say, how it changes tonally due to the cone material, I don't know.
It's always more noticeable on the tweeter more than anything. We will see. But it's doing great things and nothing surprising. This is the point when people may say that, oh yes, Pete is using Zapco M, Zapco DSP and Accutons. It's getting a bit boring. But there's a point when you go to a shop and you say, I want this, I want that, I want that. You have no idea about what it's going to be like in the car, in that given car. And just because you like it because it's a certain brand that you get a hard on, or some people do, they just want to have a certain brand, or just because it's expensive or you got a good deal, it's great. But you don't know what it's going to be like in that given location. What if you buy a driver and it doesn't work in a door? Not as good as another one. You're happy.
You've got to look at certain speakers. You've got to look at the parameters, and mid basses are. You've got to look at the parameters to whether it's going to work in a kick or a door, and the parameters do change the sound of that, or a box, and the parameters do change for that. But yeah, the Accuton drivers are obviously very, very good, very dynamic, sensitive, which works when you're using slightly less power. Although 150 watts on each driver, except for the subs, is more.
I'm going to share this video first, but we did a test today, a few hours ago, with the car. We wanted to see how much it was actually drawing. You will have a separate video, probably a 10-minute video, when we did a quick test where we clamped it. You will see how many amps the system is drawing on moderate levels, with the sub, without the sub, with tones, with music, and people will be well surprised. When you play dynamic music, it never draws as much as when you go to an SPI competition or you just play hair tricks and then constant bass notes. It's nothing like, not even close. This, now I'm not saying anything, you will have to watch the video. I'm going to share it when I have time, because I don't think many people have done proper clamping tests. But it's well surprising, it hardly draws anything.
Trying to explain to a customer that they don't need massive amounts of amplifiers with massive amounts of power on every speaker is a difficult thing, because you know they get to see some cars overseas and they've got 400 watts on a tweeter and it's just stupid. You don't need that power. Yeah, it's good to have the dynamics and it's good to have the headroom, but
yeah, we were talking about it, driving a 1.2 litre on the motorway, struggling doing 80-90, or driving a V8. It's a whole different story.
It's a whole different story.
But that you don't have to buy a tank with a big engine just so you can say that, oh, I've got big power. You don't need it. And we had many of you who saw the previous car, the E63. We had the 400.2s on tweeter, mid bass, everything. And we were using only 10-20 watts for mids. You don't need more. You don't use more. You could have a 50 watt amplifier for mid and tweet, set up the gains, and you would be fine. You would have clean power, and you could go ridiculously loud. You need a bit more juice for mid bass, but this 6-channel does everything, and you can never really max it out.
So we've swapped four 2 channels at 2x400 to one of those which drives the subs, and then one 6 channel to drive the whole front end at 6x150 watts. And the car has all the loudness you could ever need, and all the dynamics you could ever need, and all the quality you could ever need. And the customer actually has heard this and now knows.
How is it? Is it better?
Yeah.
The car is better. The car is better than the last car, with less amplification and less power, because of the drivers and
to be fair, for the mids, it's definitely a better environment being there where they are on the dash.
Yep.
A lot of breathing space. We had to squeeze in the RG100s in the previous one in the pillars because we needed large format mid-range to keep up with the firewall mid-bass. Once you have mid-bass in the firewall in those Mercedes, it's beautiful, it's clean, no vibration, no rattle, but because it's under the carpet, under the foam and everything, they can't play high. So they are more like kick bass drivers. You need really capable mids, and we couldn't put them anywhere else. We had to put them in the pillars, but there's only so much airspace you can give for a large mid in a pillar without making it looking.
Oh, you see people all the time putting large mids in a pillar with very little airspace, and you're wasting your time.
And you made the driver sound like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, oh, why doesn't it sound great? It sounds so honky, and oh, I have to use shitloads of EQ, but is it going to fix? Oh, maybe a little bit, but it will always have this sound. And it's a completely different story when you have it breathing without much effect behind the driver. I had that separate video when I was talking about what's the secret behind good sounding pillars. When I was building the C pillars actually for rear fill in the Insignia last year. And install, that's why we always say installation.
I've tuned cars with 3s in the pillars, and the airspace has been that small that I've had to put an 800 hertz crossover on the 3.5. And then customers have said to me, why are you crossing them over so high? And it's because it's so peaky below that. I would have to do so much EQ and so much work, it would just ruin the sound.
Yeah, but by then the mid-bass will have problems up to 800, and it's difficult to integrate things.
So if you're going to build a pillar for a speaker, make sure you give the driver plenty of airspace around the driver and allow that air to move away from the driver.
And don't build a long tube like this, because that's going to affect it as well. Always, when people use 4 or 5 layers of spacers for mid-bass as well in the door, they think it's cool. You don't need it. You don't have to aim mid-bass in the door either. You don't need that bloody foam around the spacers and around the driver. It's not going to change anything for your mid-bass.
We were discussing about a manufacturer told a guy to build a car, a 3-way system with mid-bass in the door, 3s and tweeters on the A-pillar. Put the 3s and the tweeters on the A-pillar flat, firing at each other, right? But then the mid-bass in the door, angle it. And well, if you're crossing over at 250, 300 hertz, it's omnidirectional. You don't need to angle the mid-bass in the door, but I just found it crazy that you would angle a mid-bass, which doesn't need to be angled, at those frequencies, and then play the mids and the tweeters, and don't aim them, and just play them firing at each other, reflecting off the windscreen, causing all sorts of issues. It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense to me.
They changed it soon after.
yeah, one show and it got changed. But firing off the windscreen is if you've got locations in your dash, give it a shot, because it works very, very well. I've been using it for years. Peter's been using it for years. It works, and it gives you a really good distance to sound stage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a more believable stage than when it's in your face. Yes, you can put mids in the sails, and then it will be super wide, but how wide does stereo have to be? People don't realize what the angle is for the perfect stereo setup. Do you know what degree it is? When you have 2 speakers, 1 chair, equal distances. What's the angle? It has to be an equal triangle. No, if you have a triangle with equal sides, equal distances. Oh, this is primary school. There you go, 60 degrees. So when people put drivers in the sails, what's that? You're like 100 degree. Why does it have to be so wide in a car? I don't get it. It's cool. You can have crazy stereo separation and you go like that, like a crazy dog. But the problem, it's going to be in your face.
The problem there is that the center of the stage, the center stage when you tune a car is the center of the stage, not the center of the car. So if you've got the passenger side speakers so wide, it actually goes outside the car by quite a distance. So where do you put your center on that? Do you put your center, over the opposite side of the car, and then it just doesn't sound right. You want the center to be as close to the center of the windscreen as possible.
That's the other issue. When you say where do you put it? No, you don't put it when you tune it right, you timeline it right. It's going to be where it's going to be. Some people want it in front of them over the steering wheel. No, it's not going to be there.
But the physical, when you sit in a car and you've got that windscreen, that kind of sets your stage. Yeah. And you've got your A-pillars or your dash and your speakers are there. Then you look at the distance in between the two and you go, right, okay, you pretty much want to be in the centre of the windscreen, but because you're closer to one speaker, you pull it over to one side a little bit, and there's your centre stage. If you're pulling it so far over to the passenger, because the passenger the opposite side speaker is so far away, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right at all.
Separation between center and far ends won't be right. That's when left center and right center are normally screwed in most cars. Anything that happens between center and the ends of the stage is just a blur. You don't have a great separation and positioning, but well, not everyone is into that technicality or that level of madness.
But everybody says they want this clean, focused sound, and you get the focused sound by getting every instrument locked in, and
Coming
every
from the
tone
same
in the right location, and that's when everything comes together. Okay, tuning, time alignment, and all does that, but to give that focus, people say, how do you make that person's sound and that sax sound so three-dimensional and real? And it's getting that focus and that speaker placement, and as well as everything else.
Yep. Jesus, we've gone really far now.
We got off on a tangent.
You managed to hear us talking about deep shit.
It's not so shy now.
No, it's not.
I
You
told
can
you.
talk about stuff
I
like
could
this.
talk about car audio.
We could talk about this forever. Yeah, deep stuff. So here we go. I'm gonna share the pictures at the very end so you can see a couple of the shots of this build. You've seen the introduction. Also go on Patreon. That's the only place where I'm going to share behind the scene content from now on. I just don't have time to share so many videos on YouTube, unfortunately. And quite often I don't want to share everything. And those people who understand how long it takes to shoot videos, edit videos, then those people appreciate it and they support me. So go on Patreon, it's in the link. Then you can see actually every single day's update on this build, what progress we had on it. You will see every single step of the install. That will give a better picture about what goes into a 29-day build. Yes, done, dot, game over, go home, pack up, sleep, ready, repeat.
And like and share Platinum in Car as well. There you go.
There you go.
Simple, done.
Someone commented, yeah, I like your YouTube just to support you, Lee. After
There you
the
go.
previous video. So you have one more now.
No, I've had a few subscribers over the last few days.
But if you are in the middle of UK, definitely pop in, check out Lee's work, check out his car. You get an idea about what pure sound quality is about. Obviously people know me better, so I don't.
You're the star. You're the YouTube star.
YouTube star, pop star. I'm the pop star. But this is it for this one, guys. We finish it here. Subscribe, because then you won't miss the next one. And hopefully we will have a project in the future again. We will see. We had one in September. So like every half a year.
Yeah, cool.
We can handle it each other.
Yeah, every 6 months.
Yeah, you need that space from me. Cool. This is it. See
Thanks,
you later,
guys.
Take care.